Hello everyone, this is my first attempt at a playthrough with Street Rod, the original Street Rod from 1989. This was one of my favorite games of the 8-bit era, and a number of sequels have been attempted over the years. Most recently there's talk of an Android port with extra features from the add-on discs. Now the scenario is that you are in 1963 building hot rods with period licenses and period newspapers, and you buy pre-war cars, usually to start with, because they're cheap. And then you hot rod them and attempt to be the fastest hot rodder in your county. Everything costs money, so you have to manage your money carefully. That's why you want to start with a cheap car, even if it's not the fastest one. The engines are relatively authentic, not the 6 cylinders you start with, but the V8s are period American V8s. In this case, I am going to use a 283 Chevy V8, first removing the 6-cylinder, which I'm not sure is actually all that authentic for a 1940 Chevy, but in any case, it's what they give you. And you can sell your parts that you aren't using, like engines you pull out of the car, for extra money. Usually the 6-cylinder goes, of course, because then you can buy a better V8. So the 283 was actually, in real life, a very respectable engine because it was used in the Bel Air, and until 1961 it was used in the Corvette as well. In this case, it's a good starting point because if you put a 4-barrel carburetor on it, which was typical for a 283, you can get a fast enough car to win your first races. So you need a 4-barrel manifold, and you can usually afford a racing carburetor after that. So buy the manifold there, and the racing carburetor. The racing manifold, incidentally, is for 2 4-barrels. It's not a requirement for the racing carburetor. And you put in the bolts manually. The graphics of the engines are not authentic, even if the names of the engines are. There's a generic smaller V8, you should say, and a generic larger V8, generic 6-cylinder. And you have these generic parts that you add. You can also tune in this sort of gamey way. It is not a perfect simulation because obviously they wanted it to be playable and within the limits of 1989 technology, computer technology, that is. And once you have basic upgrades to your car, you can go and try drag racing. So you go to your diner. Well, it's the only diner they give you, actually. Then there, are cars with 6-cylinder engines like this Mercury. A real Mercury probably would have had a V8, so you have it pretty easy in this situation. And this big 6-cylinder car is relatively easy to beat, even with your automatic transmission still installed. Most of the cars come with automatics, but it's not always authentic because a 1940 Chevy probably wouldn't have had an automatic. The races are these illegal street races, but of course legal in a video game. You can also race in road races, which are a bit longer than this. Once you win the money you gambled on, and then you can try something more ambitious. In this case, this isn't so ambitious because I'm up against a 6-cylinder Valiant. So even though I have to survive one of these longer road races, racing for the vehicle title or the pink slip, it's still pretty easy at this point in the game. On these longer races, it's actually possible for the police to pull you over, which means that you get fined out of your budget in the game. The gameplay is a lot like Test Drive and Test Drive 2, I thought, but I don't know if it's quite as good in terms of the physics. You do have to get a good race line through the curves like this, which, again, if you straddle the center line, that's illegal and dangerous in real life. In a video game, irrelevant. They also give you these construction sites along the way to make your life more difficult. And it always feels like this road course is longer than it should be, although in Street Rod 2 the road courses are much harder than this. And just when you think you are running out of patience with the length of the course, you reach the county line and you win your opponent's car. Although you can also race on the road for money, although larger amounts, like $25 or $100. And I commented about the race being very long. Having good tires is important actually on this course because you have to have good handling. In this case, the car is, of course, just bought, and so the tires are new. Once you have the car, the other car, you can drive it home. You can notice that the dashboard is the same, even though it's a different make of car altogether. This is because the dashboards are generic, generally. And so this is a 6-cylinder car with a 3-speed transmission, not very fast. And so I'm going to sell it immediately, looking up the price in the classifieds. These are not always profitable to sell, at least not very profitable, but they're more profitable than drag racing. So if you can race for pink slips, that's generally better because you make a lot more money and can buy more parts for your own car. You can also drive the car that you won, but that's not what I'm doing in this case. So I'm using the money from the Valiant to get a Chevy 327 V8 plus a racing transmission. The racing transmission is rather important. In real life, it would kind of vary with what you were trying to do. But in Street Rod, you will not have full performance without getting at least a manual transmission and preferably a racing transmission. The 327 V8 in real life was the best Chevy engine available in 1963. The top-of-the-line Corvettes had it. In this case, I'm also putting a dual intake on the 327, which was also, interestingly, a factory option on the Corvette anyway, but not very common, actually, but very common among hot rodders. Again, you have to put the bolts in manually, and the graphics are generic. So there's the dual manifold, bolted in manually. Now at this point, of course, I've used up all my money except for my last $10. Without $10, you can't really play the game because you can't do the drag races unless you're going to do pink slips for every race, which is not always practical, especially when you don't know how fast the car is yet. So there I'm changing the transmission to the manual. Of course, one thing you can do is sell those parts, you know, the old engine and the old transmission, and then you're not down to your last $10. But in this case, I'm in a hurry to get out the door. Now it's 119 mile an hour top speed, so it is faster. And I'm taking it for gas because you can see from the data sheet it was out of gas. The gas cap is actually a detail that not all the cars have. They'll add it if you go to the gas station in the other cars. With the 40 Chevy, not a problem. It's already there. Although you do have to pump the gas manually. So that's it. Thank you for watching.